Hello, hello. Welcome to Clear Money Talk. My name is Tim Clairmont, CEO and founder of Clear Financial Partners. As always, your co-host, the illustrious, wondrous, amazing, phenomenal, Tyler Andrews.
Keep going.
Yeah, I know. I was ready to keep going. Yeah, it's like, how many more adjectives do you need? That was 4.
No, that's perfect. Tyler Andrews here. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Clear Money Talk. I feel bad, Tim. I almost should introduce you with the amazing adjectives that you introduced me with.
Well, you can hit me with those on another episode. So when you think of some really good ones. So.
Okay. A few come to mind, as I'm sure many of the listeners would imagine as well. So, you ready for another topic that you know nothing about?
I have no idea. So for those of you who don't know, I wear progressive lenses. Sometimes I have my glasses on, and with my glasses, I can read up close with the glasses and at a distance with the glasses. But this distance right here, I happen to see perfectly at intermediate distance, so I don't really need a prescription for that. So I can never see what Tyler has on his sheets. It's like, as long as, if I don't have my glass, even if I had my glasses on, it's too small for me to see. So I don't have a clue what we're talking about. He's got his outline notes there, and before I do, whatever the topic of the day is. So let's find out what are we talking about today?
Let's find out together. Can you trust online financial advice?
Oh, interesting. Can you trust online financial advice? Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a big topic.
I think with the rise of DIY finance, social media, self-proclaimed gurus, I think there's a lot of questioning from people, the public, saying, "Can I trust this stuff online?" If you watch a TikTok or a tweet or a YouTube video, can you trust it? And if you can trust it, what should you be looking for as far as validation or other factors to go off of? Clear Money Talk is one thing when it comes to trust factor, quality of information, but not everything is built the same. And I think it's worth at least talking about and riffing, going back and forth, giving our opinions on it and seeing what we can come up with.
I think that's very, it's a very appropriate question to ask, and I think it's important. It speaks to the heart of our 4 values. Our first value is education. And I believe at the end of the day, the person that you should trust the most is yourself. If you understand what you're listening to, you understand what you're reading, you understand what you're watching, and it makes sense to you, you get it, then you can say, oh, aha, I understand. And you have that definitive validation where you can trust yourself because you really do, in fact, understand it. When you just try to accept a summary as fact, when you take somebody else's opinion, which might only be a sentence long, and you're just trying to shortcut it when you don't necessarily understand the why behind that opinion, I think that's where you run into risk. You run into the danger of when you trust the bottom line advice that's provided by a third party in any capacity without understanding the why behind it, because I don't think there's any advice that's right for everyone. All advice should be really catered to the individual, and some things that might be right for one person might be the absolute opposite and totally wrong for someone else. And the only way you can really understand that is for you to make sure you've educated yourself enough so that you can trust the accuracy of the information because you get it. And a couple things come to mind, like the ChatGPT. For anybody that's leaned into the AI stuff or any of those aspects, there's some amazing, great summaries there. But it's still quite capable of hallucinating. Look up LLM hallucination or ChatGPT hallucination. I mean, it can create things from thin air that sound really accurate and true, and in reality, they're completely false. So you have to verify the accuracy of things you get from that kind of a source. When you have online sources, this is why people read certain articles from certain magazines or certain newspapers, because there's an element of trust that is enhanced because you feel like they've had to vet the accuracy of that information. Admittedly, I think it's important to recognize that even delivery mechanisms like TV channels or newspapers can be biased, and they can certainly have their leanings one way or another. And it's important to recognize that bias is probably there. But in general, most of the mainstream ones, I don't think are going to give you a complete hallucination. They're not going to give you something that's complete fiction as if it were fact. And that allows you to do a little bit more trusting as far as that part of information is concerned. So, I guess, can you trust online advice? I think trust but verify is the magic here. And, you want to, and trust yourself if it makes sense. Don't just accept the conclusions without understanding the why behind it. That's kind of where my gut goes.
I think that's a good guttural check. I think if I can come up with a short phrase, viral doesn't mean valid always.
Yeah.
So just if a video goes viral on social media and it happens to talk about finance or anything that you're trying to learn about, doesn't necessarily mean it's valid just because it went viral. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's fair. I mean, most things that are viral are fun. They're not, or interesting, or just so.
Well, I mean, I'd like to go viral on Clear Money Talk.
I would love to go viral. That'd be great.
So,
Let's go.
I don't want to
help us make that happen. Help us make that happen. Send us viral. I don't know if we're going to go viral. Probably not going to be happening from podcasts going viral, but I would imagine that maybe the video, because of how amazingly good looking Tyler is.
Oh,
perhaps that could go viral.
That would be one way to go viral.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. So. I think it's an excellent question. Can you trust online? But I don't want to discourage you from doing online research, though. It is an excellent tool for your ability to ask questions of an LLM, ChatGPT, Claude, any of the other LLMs that are out there. I think it's a phenomenal tool for you to continue to do your learning. But just dig deeper. Don't just accept conclusions. And obviously the internet. I mean, it's been around for a long time. It's quick, easily accessible information. The other thing I would say is don't search for answers based on biases that you're trying to validate. You will always find confirmation of your bias. If you search for something and say, for example, I think this stock is horrible. Can you, provide additional information for me on why this is horrible? You're going to get all that information about why it's horrible. You're going to miss out on all the information about why it might be great from another perspective because of the way you searched it. So I think a common thing that comes to mind is annuities. If you search annuities and say, hey, I want an objective opinion about annuities, the good, the bad, the ugly, the history of them, I think that's a great way to phrase that prompt and get your information and see if you can get your information that way. If you, however, said something like, I heard annuities are bad, can you tell me more information about that? You'll probably get a bunch of information about how annuities are bad. On the other hand, you might say, I heard annuities are good for some of these people. Can you tell me more information about that? You'll probably get a bunch of information about how they're good. That could happen in any situation based on the way you ask your questions when you do your research. So don't ever accept just a conclusion. Don't draw the conclusion that annuities are good or annuities are bad. Understand why they're good for some people and why they're bad for other people, and determine which camp you might be in. As another example,
I think that is a phenomenal point, and that's probably cross applicable to anything in life. I mean, if we're seeking information for one thing, you'll find it. There's so many mediums to find information nowadays, whether it's social media, as we're kind of talking about, or books, or talking to your friend or your neighbor, or anything else. I mean, if you seek out something, you can usually find it, and it depends what you're seeking. If you're seeking broad knowledge about a topic, you can find the broad knowledge in an objective capacity, like you're saying, Tim. But if you seek out the bad, or if you're just seeking out the good for something, you'll also find that, and you'll miss the other end of it, which is so crucial for when it comes to learning. I mean, just thinking back to formal education settings like school, elementary, middle, high school, college, they do try to take an objective approach. At least I felt that way. I'm sure there are some people that have different experiences, but it's different when you're having to do your own self-taught learning, and you can hone in on just kind of what you want to hone in on.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I think once you have the answers that you believe are true from your research and they feel true to you, there's nothing wrong with validating that through an expert. Talking to a financial advisor, talking to, you might diagnose yourself on your own medical problems online as you do research for things, but you don't have the right to go out and get your own prescription. You have to consult a human being to get the official approval for that. Now, you might be able to come into that conversation with the doctor much more informed thanks to the additional research that you've done. And I think it's a brilliant thing for you to do. You do the exact same thing with your financial advisor. But for you to prescribe yourself your own medication is not something you're even legally allowed to do. Why would you even think about prescribing yourself your own financial solutions without a similar double check to make sure that you're actually doing this correctly? And I get that your health is paramount. If you don't have your health, you're not, what do you have? And that becomes top of line. Whenever you don't have your health, that's the biggest issue for you. And usually everything else pales in comparison. If you're healthy, then there could be other issues. But if you don't have money, that's a pretty big issue too. And if you make some poor choices as it relates to your financial plan because you didn't think about your situation, how your situation might be different from other people's situations, and you just took some generalizations as if they were fact instead of really opinion or even a recommendation for people that are not you, at the end of the day, that result, that consequence, that whether it's good, bad, or otherwise, is something you're going to live with. So why not double check and make sure that you've prescribed yourself the right financial medication for the situation?
Tim, once again, finding a great real world example to paint a picture.
Yeah.
I'm always impressed with that. And we're not here to say that all financial advice is online is bad. I mean, I think there's a lot of good. It's raised a lot of awareness about stuff, broad basic topics about investing, finance, economics, all this different stuff that you can find on social media. And I think that's great. I think it's opened the floodgates to additional learning, information, and opportunities for people out there, which is awesome. I think there's also some bad that always comes along with good, which is maybe oversimplified things. You can't just develop and deliver a comprehensive, holistic financial plan through social media. They don't know you. They don't know your taxes or your risk tolerance or anything else. So oversimplified can be the bad. And then there's the risky with it too. Hacks that these social media people that are pushing. These one-stop solutions that maybe work for some, but might not work for everybody else. And I cut you off, and you got really excited.
No, I did. You reminded me a couple things, Tyler.
Please
you didn't
go.
cut me off at all. I didn't want to cut you off. You were on a tear.
I was.
All I was going to say is that watch out. So two thoughts came to me during that. So totally unrelated. So we'll have to hit them in isolation. But one is the thoroughness. We'll talk about the 5 principles of financial planning because ultimately you can isolate on one part of it and miss a more critical part of it by not paying attention to that. So I'll cover the 5 principles of financial planning briefly for you. But the other is watch out, and I think it's a big watch out. Watch out for people who communicate opinions as if they are fact. They are fishing for your attention. The limited resources that exist are our minutes and our dollars, our time and our money. And I always want to be respectful of your time. You're listening right now and giving your minutes of your life to listening to us. And I appreciate that so much. And that's why we're trying to add value for you in a real way. And when we manage money for our clients, we're trying to add value for the dollars that they're investing as well. But the additional limitations that we have are our energy and our attention. There's only so much attention that you can really give things. And that's what everybody's trying to grab. Everybody's trying to get your attention. And a lot of people will package an opinion as if it's a fact in order to try to get your attention. So just be wary of that. Be aware of that. I think of some of the financial advising firms, for example, back to the annuities are bad concept, that decided to say, hey, and all annuities are bad as if it was a fact, but it's really their opinion. And then they lean into that to try to get your attention and try to have you make business decisions like, eliminating certain products that might have been really good for you and investing in other things that they want you to invest in through them because that's how they get paid. That whole approach, fear-based selling, is just icky to me. I mean, I just can't stand it. It truly disgusts me. I want to educate our clients so that they can make the right informed decisions, understanding everything as thoroughly as they possibly can. I don't want to motivate you out of some scare tactic to try to do something that I think might be good for you or not good for you or otherwise. I want you to decide what's right for you with our help, and that's really who we are. Anyway, that's one point. The other point is the thorough elements of that. It's really easy to research a specific part of your financial plan, but that holistic, comprehensive financial plan Tyler just mentioned, it takes a lot. There's a lot of things to think about. So the 5 principles of financial planning, and there's actually a 6th principle that's come out recently too. The first one is rate of return. Are you getting a good rate of return on your stuff? So many times that is the thing that is occupying 99% of your focus when you're thinking about things. You're thinking about how much rate of return did I get? Did I make money on this investment or not? That's only one little piece of the entire thorough elements of a comprehensive financial plan. The second is retirement income planning, which is about how much income do you have coming in, how much do you get to keep after taxes, and how long is it going to last? Are you going to make sure it's going to last as long as you do? What if you live longer than you thought you were going to live? Are you going to run out early because you were taking and spending so much? What if you don't live as long as you expected to live? Are you going to leave behind the chunk of money that you wanted to leave behind if that's important to you? Retirement income planning is a key element of your overall holistic plan. Of course, Tyler and I handle these first 2 things for most of our clients. That's one of the main things we do. The third and fourth ones are estate planning and tax planning. Estate planning, we work together with your attorney to make sure things are going well. Tax planning, we work together with your tax professionals to make sure things are going well. We do some tax planning with our clients to try to keep taxes at a legal minimum throughout their lifetime, as opposed to tax preparation, which we do not do. So we don't do tax returns for people or handle your defense in an audit. That's something you need a different tax professional for that resource. And we also do tax management when it comes to managing your portfolios in a tax efficient way. But from an estate planning standpoint, we need the attorney to help you draft these documents, but just making sure you have the documents that you need from a legal standpoint is really important too. The fifth and final principle is protection planning. I should say final until the sixth one was added, which I'll fill you in on in a second. Protection planning, the 3 bullets there. First bullet is health insurance, and so make sure you have adequate health insurance. Second is auto and home insurance, your property casualty insurance, liability insurance, things like that. And then third is stuff we do handle as well, which is life insurance, long-term care insurance, and long-term disability insurance, making sure you're protected in that vein as well. The sixth and really new but final principle of financial planning that's come out more recently is actually behavioral finance. And it's something that most people don't really give consideration to, but it is something that is becoming a focus now in the industry. When you pay attention to the impact of how humans behave with regard to their money, that is critical as well. So factoring in the personal elements of your risk tolerance, how comfortable you feel when your money goes up and down, how knowledgeable you are about your investment strategy. You need to understand it. If you don't understand it and it's too complicated for you, then you're never going to feel completely comfortable because you don't get it. So all of those things come into play too. And making sure you're working with somebody who gets you, who understands what your objectives are, and who can explain it to you in a way that you also understand it, that's so critical. So those are some of the thoughts that just came to mind.
Those were a lot of great thoughts.
Yeah.
I think that's spot on with the topic and what we're talking about. So, and I think it's always great to do a refresh on the principles of financial planning. I think too many times, more often than not, investors and individuals are looking at one or two segments and missing the others, and they don't all work unless they work cohesively together. And if you don't look at them all, you're probably missing something. So it's what we do. And this stuff like Tim said earlier, it takes time. Like, to build a truly comprehensive financial plan, it can take months, if not up to a year sometimes, for like newer clients of our firm, just because it can be that in-depth and that ingrained in what's going on, and then also with timing and scheduling with people, and it takes that long. So if you're trying to watch a few YouTube videos or tweets or TikToks and build your financial plan, you might be missing something.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to say that online advice is bad. I think there's a lot of good stuff out there.
Yeah,
a lot of
great.
it.
Yeah. Well, and we use it too. I mean,
Yeah, we use
I
it.
hope your doctor uses it too when they're trying to research something. I mean, it's a phenomenal resource to have all this information quickly and available at your fingertips. But you don't prescribe yourself your own medication if you really need to do something that's going to change your life. Like, make sure you don't invest your money in a foolish way that you regret later on.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you can prescribe your own medicine, but you got to go and get your doctorate and, go to medical school. And then
There you go.
And then you earn the right. Or if you want to do your own financial advice, you got to go do everything we've done, which is
I wonder
not
how
a
many
small
doctors
list.
actually prescribe their own medicine. I have a
Can you
feeling.
do that?
I don't even know if they can.
I don't even know
think
if they
may
can
need
either.
another doctor to sign off on their own prescriptions.
Yeah.
So anyway,
That's a
it
good
is
point.
it is what it is.
It is what it is.
I feel like we can make this a nice shorter episode if we wrap up the Just the Answer now.
Mm-hmm.
And I would encourage people in the Just the Answer, if you listen to the Just the Answer when we do that, to really go back and listen to the whole thing, because I think it's going to be challenging to summarize everything we just said, but
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch Tyler do it.
We all saw that coming, didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay, so for Just the Answer, we talked about, can you trust online financial advice? A little bit of a gray area here, people. Yes, to some degree, but also you have to understand, one, where the information's coming from. It has to align with your knowledge and understanding of whatever it is you're trying to learn, whether it's about money or anything else. I think you need to have a rooted foundational understanding of what you're trying to learn, and then use external resources like online advice as additional justification, verification for what you're trying to really cement your understanding in. So be leery of what you come across. Not everything is made the same. Just because it went viral doesn't mean it's valid as far as information is concerned. So really you look into the resources, where the information's coming from. I think credentials are a big one. Tim talked about how doctors, if you're prescribing your own medical condition, you can't go and get your own medicine or prescription for it. Same thing with financial advice. You should be leaning into people that experienced and or have the credentials in whatever it is that you're looking into, especially when it comes to online financial advice. What else did we talk about, Tim?
We covered, we did cover a lot of ground in that Just the Answer. I'm trying to think about the, fundamentally watch out for people that are trying to position opinions as if they're facts.
Yes.
Don't get taken by that. Make sure you understand ultimately what it is that you're reading, because that's the best person you can trust is yourself if you really understand it. And then, I mean, ultimately, if you're going to do something that's really, really, really important, I would just encourage you to seek out advice from a professional. And I want to reiterate for the Just the Answer, it's in your best interest to listen to the full version of the show. I think there was a lot of really good content provided in a very short show, and this is a good one for you to listen to the whole thing on, in my opinion. And remember, the ChatGPTs and all of the other LLMs of the world, the new AIs, are capable of hallucinating and making stuff up that sounds very real. But also, there are people out there that are trying to take things that are fictional and make them sound very real as well. Both of those are gotchas that you got to watch out for.
Yep, well said. All right, you know what time it is.
Oh boy, here we go.
Okay.
Stump the nerd.
Stump the nerd trivia. We need to have like a little dubbed-in music every time we get to the trivia.
I know, we should get there. We'll get there. Yeah. Well, maybe if we had enough followers that actually matter.
That's true, yeah.
So,
we get our average video count up to like 500, and then we can
there we go.
entertain
maybe you
that.
can start humming different things and see what the followers like. So
have a little chime.
There you go. All right, what do you got for me today?
Trivia. Which of the following websites was launched first?
Oh, okay.
Got some options here for you. We got YouTube,
Okay.
LinkedIn,
Okay.
Facebook, and Twitter.
Ooh.
Trying to stay along the same vein as the topic.
Interesting.
Online,
Okay.
social media platforms. Which came first?
So so YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and I believe Facebook was before Twitter, and I believe LinkedIn was actually before Facebook. Not 100% on that, but I think that's the case. But I feel like YouTube was before all three of those. I feel like YouTube is probably first. I am guessing. It wouldn't surprise me if it turned out that one of those others existed earlier on and maybe just had a longer gestation period. But I'm going to go with YouTube.
It's actually not the right answer.
Yeah, that's
the
okay.
right answer is LinkedIn.
Oh, okay.
But
LinkedIn.
it's really interesting how close they all were, which makes sense with the .com boom and everything else going on at that time. But LinkedIn came out in 2003, which is really cool. Facebook 2004, YouTube 2005, and Twitter 2006.
Oh, wow.
So you can see how close they all were to each other.
There you go. 3, 4,
I think
5,
that's
6.
a great symbolism to also what's going on right now with AI,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, everything is happening so quick right
Yeah.
next to each other.
Yep.
That I think we're going to see a lot of these huge things that 10, 20, 30 years from now, might be so mainstream and integrated in our lives, and then we'll be looking back to this and saying that's when they were all happening, and they were all happening so quick to it, close and quick to each other that.
And just because something happens first doesn't mean it's the most valuable.
Correct.
Clearly, if you look at the four
That's
of those,
very true.
LinkedIn was first in 2003, and of the four, I don't know about Twitter, but clearly I would say Facebook and YouTube have certainly had more value than LinkedIn and Twitter from a valuation standpoint, from a pure investment standpoint.
Yeah.
Though I don't know. I mean, we'll see where it's going. That's as of now.
fine.
That maybe that changes too. So
Changes daily.
all right. Well, I think that'll bring us to an end.
I think so.
So
Yeah.
thank you very, very much for joining us on Clear Money Talk today. I hope you had a wonderful time. And if there are other questions that you want to know Tim and Tyler's recommendations and opinions and thoughts about, just look through our history of Clear Money Talk shows. Every show is a question related to money, and you can get the answer as quickly as you would like. It's at your fingertips. So.
Yeah. And if there's any questions we haven't answered that you might want to hear us talk about, please send it our way. Give us a call, send us an email, send us a fax, send a carrier pigeon with a little letter on its leg. Send it to us. We'll be happy to talk about it.
We're actively seeking new clients, and we are licensed to work in pretty much all of the states in the country. So if you're in the United States and looking for a financial advisor, and you would like to give us a call, don't hesitate to reach out. 503-579-1000. We'll have a 15-minute clarity call with you and just take it from there.
Very nice. Till next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Tim Clairmont and Tyler Andrews are investment advisor representatives offering securities and advisory services through Cetere Wealth Services, LLC, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Cetere Investment Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Cetere is under separate ownership from any other named entity. The views depicted in this material are for information purposes only and are not necessarily those of Cetere Wealth Services, LLC. They should not be considered specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Cetere Wealth Services, LLC exclusively provides investment products and services through its representatives. Although Cetere does not provide tax or legal advice or supervise tax, accounting, or legal services, Cetere representatives may offer these services through their independent, outside business. This information is not intended as tax or legal advice. All investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment strategy will be successful. Examples referenced are hypothetical only and do not represent the actual performance of any particular investments. Converting from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. A Roth IRA offers tax-free withdrawals on taxable contributions. To qualify for the tax-free and penalty-free withdrawal or earnings, a Roth IRA must be in place for at least 5 tax years, and the distribution must take place after age 59 and a half or due to death, disability, or a first-time home purchase, up to a $10,000 lifetime maximum. Depending on state law, Roth IRA distributions may be subject to state taxes. Distributions from traditional IRAs and employer-sponsored retirement plans are taxed as ordinary income and, if taken prior to reaching age 59 and a half, may be subject to an additional 10% IRS tax penalty. Investors should consider the investment objectives, risks and charges, and expenses of mutual funds and ETFs carefully before investing. The prospectus, which contains this and other information about the funds and ETFs, can be obtained directly from the company or from your financial professional. The prospectus should be read carefully before investing or sending money. A diversified portfolio does not assure a profit or protect against loss in a declining market. Dollar cost averaging will not guarantee a profit or protect you from loss, but may reduce your average cost per share in a fluctuating market. Investors cannot invest directly in indexes. The performance of any index is not indicative of the performance of any investment and does not take into account the effects of inflation and the fees and expenses associated with investing. Although it is possible to have guaranteed income for life with a fixed annuity, there is no assurance that this income will keep up with inflation. There is a surrender charge imposed generally during the first 5 to 7 years or during the rate guarantee period. There is a surrender charge imposed generally during the first 5 to 7 years that you own the contract. Withdrawals prior to age 59 and a half may result in a 10% IRS tax penalty in addition to any ordinary income tax. The guarantee of the annuity is backed by the financial strength of the underlying insurance company. Investment subaccount values will fluctuate with changes in market conditions. An investment in a variable annuity involves investment risk, including possible loss of principal. Variable annuities are designed for long-term investing. The contract, when redeemed, may be worth more or less than the total amount invested. Variable annuities are subject to insurance-related charges, including mortality and expense charges, administrative fees, and the expenses associated with the underlying subaccounts. Investors should consider the investment objectives, risks, and charges and expenses of the variable annuity carefully before investing. The prospectus contains this and other information about the variable annuity. Contact Clear Financial Partners at info@clearfp.com or 503-579-1000 to obtain a prospectus, which should be read carefully before investing or sending money. The cost and availability of life insurance depend on factors such as age, health, and the type and amount of insurance purchased. Before implementing a strategy involving life insurance, it would be prudent to make sure that you are insurable by having the policy approved. As with most financial decisions, there are expenses associated with the purchase of life insurance. Policies commonly have mortality and expense charges. In addition, if a policy is surrendered prematurely, there may be surrender charges and income tax implications. The target date of a target date fund may be a useful starting point in selecting a fund, but investors should not rely solely on the date when choosing a fund or deciding to remain invested in one. Investors should consider funds asset allocation over the whole life of the fund. Often target date funds invest in other mutual funds, and fees may be charged by both the target date fund and the underlying mutual funds. The principal value of these funds is not guaranteed at any time, including at the target date. Cetere does not offer any direct investments, endorsements, or advice as it relates to Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency. This is for informational purposes only. Bank certificate of deposits are insured by an agency of the federal government and offer a fixed rate of return, whereas both the principal and yield of investment securities will fluctuate with changes in market conditions. Clear Financial Partners is located at 15573 Bangui Road, Suite 100, Lake Oswego, Oregon 97035. For more information, please call us at 503-579-1000.